I believe we are live currently. Are we live? Let me just double check here. If I go into my YouTube and see what it looks like, I gotta assume that we're live, right? Yes, perfect. All right, let's do it. So, I'm just getting my other stuff loaded up here so we can actually show it on both screens. This is awesome. We're changing things up just a little bit here because we are now trying to do it on two different lives here. So let's see here. That is not the right one. We need to switch here. But we're going to be talking about the predictions for this upcoming season. So let's get this into live here as well. Oh, I want to point that way, apparently. It's that way. Good to know. Good to know. All right. And we're good there. For league predictions. And we are going to set that right there. Well, just lost my little vision right there. What is going on, everyone? There we go. We are up and live in both sections here. So we are making some predictions here once again for the Premier League because I do think we have quite a few matches coming up. It technically is a double game week for Arsenal. They do play Wolves a little bit later, but we didn't put that into the screen. I do think obviously Arsenal are going to beat Wolves. I don't think that's going to be much of a challenge at all, but you never know. That could be a little bit of a hard match for them. We will wait and find out, but I do think, again, this is what we're going to be looking at this upcoming season or this upcoming week. Obviously, we have games Tuesday and Wednesday, and then that Thursday game, which is Arsenal versus Brentford. I can move out of the way so you guys can see that just a little bit, but overall, I do think most of these matches are pretty simple when you look at them on who should be winning for the most part, because if I'm looking at this, I can't imagine any of these teams beating the other teams here. Chelsea versus Leeds, I do think Chelsea obviously have had some hard times with Leeds, but I do think, again, this is a season where we should be able to beat them and obviously continue to be marching for the top four, sitting a point behind Manchester United, who are a point ahead of us, which again is still remarkable with what's been happening there. Obviously, Aston Villa, I do think they dropped some points this weekend. I just think Aston Villa have been struggling for the most part in the last handful of matches. They had a draw, a loss, a win, a loss, and a draw. So right now, Aston Villa has been struggling. The fact that they've only picked up 5 points in their last 5 matches really speaks volume for how this team has not been playing as great as of lately. Now, obviously, Arsenal, I do think, again, win this and keep the 6 points ahead of City here, even though I have City winning as well. They play Fulham, which I do think will actually be more of a difficult challenge for City, even though they should be able to beat Fulham fairly calm and coolly, but it could still be a difficult match for them. Overall, though, again, looking at the rest of this, I think Everton do beat Bournemouth. That should be also a tough match for them, but I do think, again, overall, Everton have been playing pretty good, and I do think, like I said, they can continue to chug along. They are sitting in 8th place right now, 37 points. A win would put them in 40 points already, which is kind of remarkable because if they do win this match this week in Everton, they will leapfrog, assuming that I have Liverpool losing this weekend, because if Liverpool lose, I wouldn't be surprised. What's the difference between I'm not going to answer that joke. What we're looking at there with Everton, for the most part, like I said, if they do win that game, going 40 points up, that is still remarkable what David Moyes has done at this club so far, because really, you're thinking about it, Liverpool should be doing so much better. The fact that they're only at 39 points right now after 25 matches just really speaks volume. Now, obviously, they had that big loss to City 2 days ago, which I do think is still going to be kind of imprinted into this match going into it. And like I said, they're playing Sunderland at home. Sunderland is always a difficult team to play against. I do think, again, they need more credit than what they get for the most part for this season. Sunderland sitting at 36 points right now. If they also win, assuming they beat Liverpool, they would be right there with them. And now Liverpool right now have a 5-goal differential. Sunderland have -2. So the fact is, if they could actually do quite well, there's a possibility that they could also somehow go ahead of Liverpool this upcoming match fixture, which would be kind of remarkable when you think about it. That Liverpool could drop from 6th all the way down to 9th position, which still doesn't seem right, to say the least, but yet it could happen this weekend, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, you never know. Will Arsenal still win the league? Attackers, yes, I do think Arsenal still win the league here. Again, there's still 6 points to go yet between them and City, so who knows how that can possibly go, but overall, if I'm thinking about it, Arsenal are just going to keep chugging away. They are playing Brentford this weekend. I know I'm kind of covering them up. Sorry about that. And then they play Wolves. So the fact that they play Brentford and then Wolves, those are two matches that they should be winning fairly easy for the most part. And because of that, for Arsenal, it does continue for them to continue to play quite well. Like we mentioned last time we were on the live, though, is that the fact that they have to play Manchester City in that League Cup final, which I do think that might be a big turning point for both clubs, because whoever wins that match, I do think gives them more momentum moving forward. And that match isn't until the March 22nd. So there's quite a few games in between there. But the fact is that they have to play them in the final, Arsenal versus City, and then they have to go back almost like 2-3 weeks later, they have to play each other in the league itself. And there's a possibility they could still play each other in the FA Cup or even the Champions League. So the fact that Man City and Arsenal could see each other multiple times is quite ridiculous. Oh man, as a Liverpool fan, they did really bad against Man City. Yeah, it's quite remarkable what happened in that City versus Liverpool match, because Liverpool were pretty dominant throughout that match. And then it was the last 25 minutes. I'm just trying to think when Bernardo scored. And once Silva scored that goal, it went downhill quickly for Liverpool. And we, again, obviously saw what all happened with the ending with the VAR calls. I do think, again, it's the right call, because if they don't make that call and City get an extra goal, it could be the difference at the end of the season with Man City and Arsenal. Obviously, the goal differential has come in factor before with Liverpool and City. So, again, you have to factor that in for the end of the season. What's the Arsenal score, mate? Oh, sorry. It's going to be 3-1. I do think Gyökeres has been doing quite well as of lately for Arsenal. I do think he's been finding his stride as of lately. I do think some people obviously were harping on Gyökeres not having a great start to the season, but overall, I think he's been doing quite well in the last handful of matches. I want to say he's scored, 6 goals now since the start of January, which, again, we're only in February right now, so it's pretty remarkable how well he's been doing. Liverpool fan here, no cohesion. We crumbled under any level of pressure. Yeah, it's remarkable how much Liverpool have dropped points this season, especially playing Anfield, because they lost to, I think it's Sunderland, or was it Bournemouth or Brentford, one of the teams, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they've lost a few matches now at home at Anfield, which is kind of remarkable when you think about it. Havertz has been helping Gyökeres a lot. Yeah, Kai Havertz is massive of how good a player he is, and I do think, again, he is going to be the key factor that does keep unlocking Gyökeres, but he's also going to be the guy that can also push up and score goals, so they don't just have to rely on Gyökeres or against Saka, who I know is out injured right now, but they'll have multiple options down that middle. They don't just have to rely on Gyökeres, which I do think has been part of his problem. Not that he can't be a guy you can rely on for the most part, but if you're thinking about all the players that Arsenal have, they have so many different options that can score goals or be a threat in front of goal, and that's what makes it pretty difficult. Forced to lose against Wolves, yes, I do think Nottingham Forest have been struggling the rest of this season. I don't think Nottingham Forest are that good of a team. I do think Sean Dyche can do quite a bit yet with that club, but I gotta think that they are going to keep struggling and continue to struggle for the rest of the season. And I do think Wolves have been playing quite a bit better. I don't think Wolves can obviously make it out of the relegation with where they're sitting right now with 8 points. It would be almost a miracle if somehow they got above Nottingham Forest and all the other teams above them didn't really accumulate any more points. So again, 8 points, you gotta assume they're going down. But Mane for Wolves has been playing pretty good. Krejak, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his right name, but that guy's also been pretty good at Wolves. And there's some other good players at Wolves. I just think Nottingham Forest only have Morgan Gibbs-White currently that's been playing up to his standards. Havertz is Arsenal striker. Gyökeres is good. I missed what you said there. Thomas shot still. Tottenham still has a shot to get relegated. And again, I do think they lose this weekend, even though they're playing at home. They're playing Newcastle, who Newcastle just lost this past weekend. Why am I blanking on who Newcastle just lost to this weekend? Whoever it was. But Newcastle have been struggling, but I got to assume that at some point, though, things got to turn around for Newcastle as well, because they are a team right now that most teams would want to face. They lost to Brentford. That's who it was. Oh, yeah, they lost to Brentford in the last 10 minutes of that match. That was a pretty good game, too. But the fact is that Newcastle have the guys that they should be winning games with, but Tottenham obviously have quite a few players out. Newcastle lost at home. Yeah, that was at St. James Park. Brentford to take points off Newcastle at St. James Park is quite remarkable. That doesn't happen that often. But I got to assume, though, with Tottenham, Romero's out with the red card. They have quite a few injuries, not just in their back line, but their midfield. Now, obviously, they brought some players back, but I got to assume that that team right now is going to struggle for the next handful of matches, and Romero's out for 4 matches, so that by itself is going to be a massive factor for Tottenham because they have to play quite a few hard matches coming up, and like I said, Newcastle obviously are trying to get some points back on the board. I'm not sure why I said that way. That's a weird way to say it. They need more points to go up the table. They're only at 33 points right now. They've lost their last 3 matches, so obviously they're going to have a lot of grit that go into that match and obviously just smash it and beat Tottenham. Can we see the bottom game? Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. My shoulder, I should have made that picture just a little bit smaller. So that's Arsenal versus Brentford there. Yeah, so Arsenal I do think are going to win this weekend. And then the Arsenal do play Wolves next Thursday. It is almost a double game week. I didn't put it in there just because I'm only looking at the next 10 matches. But overall, I do think, again, that's what's going to happen for the most part. Who do you reckon finishes in the Champions League spots? Champions League is still up in the air in my opinion. Now, granted, it's going to be the top 5 teams this season. Coefficient for Premier League seems to favor them again, obviously with how many teams made it into the knockout stages. I got to assume, obviously, Arsenal, Man City are the 2 teams that are definitely making it into the Champions League, obviously. Then I think Manchester United are in there, Chelsea, and then I do think Aston Villa is still a toss-up. I don't know if they can hold on with what they got going on. Liverpool have been shaky, but the weird thing is Brentford could still somehow make a push, which I don't know if that's possible. With the way Thiago's been playing, Damsgaard, the rest of that squad, they've been playing really, really well, which I didn't expect at the beginning of the season. They lost so many good players. They obviously lost their coach, Thomas Frank, who went to Tottenham, and yet Brentford now are sitting on 39 points in 7th position. So there's a good possibility of that. But I got to assume those 4 teams, but it's going to be between Aston Villa, Liverpool, and Brentford at the end of the season for that 5th position. So we'll see what happens there. I do think Szoboszlai is the best free kick taker. If we're talking about currently right now, free kick taker, I got to say yes. But my only thing I'd say about Szoboszlai is I think Reece James, if he's fully fit, I would prefer having Reece James take a free kick for me. But that being said, I mean, Szoboszlai obviously is a smart free kick taker. We see him score so many ridiculous free kicks too. That one against Donnarumma obviously was quite remarkable. You got some strange predictions. I had some strange predictions last time too. I had Manchester City beating Liverpool at Anfield, and everyone thought that was ridiculous, and it happened. Obviously, I didn't get all my predictions right. I think I got the Arsenal one wrong, and there was like 2 other ones I got wrong. But for the most part, my predictions are usually pretty good. I'm not going to say they're always spot on, so don't always go off of what I say. I prefer James Ward-Prowse. I mean, I haven't seen much of him as of lately, and is he at Leeds? Where is James Ward-Prowse as of right now? Because I know he obviously moved from Southampton once they got relegated, but I can't recall. Is he at West Ham? Is that right? But yeah, he would be pretty good. City beating Liverpool is luck. All games come down to luck sometimes, and that's what happened. And people said it wasn't going to happen, yet it did happen for the most part. I remember a lot of people saying there's no way that Manchester City could go and beat Liverpool at Anfield, and yet it still happened. Plays at Burnley. My God, he's moved around quite a bit then if he plays for Burnley. But yeah, I haven't seen anything with James Ward-Prowse. So again, if he plays, he's on the pitch, yeah, he's probably the best free kick taker, but Szoboszlai's up there. I mean, again, the free kick against Donnarumma, the free kick in the Champions League under the wall, I don't think you understand how difficult that is to strike a ball, to go under a wall, to have enough pace to beat a goalkeeper, because obviously he catches them off just a little bit, but the fact that he was able to do that is quite remarkable, and then obviously he had that free kick early in the season over Arsenal, which I can't remember how far out that was too. So the man can just really strike a ball from deep, and because of that, he's obviously gotten a lot of points for Liverpool. And if it wasn't for Szoboszlai, obviously Liverpool would be in a lot worse position because he has covered that right back position too. So again, not only does he get free kicks, he can obviously move around for the most part. So again, you got to say Szoboszlai has probably been Liverpool's best player this season, if we're talking about him though. I think Liverpool will fire Arne Slot at the end of the season, end of the month, and they won't have a solid result. I don't think they'll fire Slot until the end of the season. I do think, again, they go through the Champions League, and I do think Champions League, they'll probably go kind of far yet this season, and at that point, the season's almost going to be close to being ending. You're not going to fire someone and then have an interim manager come for the last month or two. Xabi Alonso, I think, is the right choice for them to have moving forward, but he's not going to come into this mixture until next season or during the summer when they have a transfer window open, because he's going to have his thoughts, his ideas, his tactics, what he wants to do. He's not going to come into it. It's very similar to what Chelsea did with some of their managers as well, because when we let go some managers, we waited till the end of the season. Frank Lampard came in, was an interim for us. It's just so you can get a whole new fresh start with the new manager. You don't want to toss him into something like this and all of a sudden it goes south pretty quickly. And I do think that was probably part of the problem with Ruben Amorim coming in last season at United, because if he would have came in at the beginning of this season, had time to work with these players, I think it would have been a whole different scenario for him at Manchester United. But he came in, the turmoil was absolutely terrible with Erik ten Hag, and there were so many issues, and that's why I think that happened. What's your prediction on the Arsenal game? Oh, yeah, sorry. Arsenal versus Brentford 3-1, and I do think, again, that's Arsenal just clearly winning that game. I got to assume, though, Brentford may score off a set piece or a throw, and they're pretty good at that as well. But we'll see. I mean, I think Thiago and then Shada should be back, if I'm not mistaken. He was suspended with a red card. But those two guys I do think are pretty good with their counterattacking. And they have some other guys, too, that are pretty quick out on the wing. So that could be difficult for, I would say, Arsenal on their wings. But I do think Timber are pretty good. Calafiori, I don't know if MSL has played that much this season. And then you're looking at the other guys that have the defensive wise. So I mean, they're pretty good. That they should be able to lock up Brentford quite a bit, but it'll still be up in the air for the most part. Everton will win 3-0. I mean, they might win 3-0. I could see them maybe finishing that game quite better than 2-1, but I do think, again, it could be interesting to see how that goes. I don't know what this is. Something popped on my screen. We're just going to throw that up there. But I don't see Brighton beating Villa. They're not that good. Yeah, the problem with Villa right now is just that Villa have not been playing that good. That's the issue for Villa, in my opinion, is that they've only taken 5 points in the last 5 matches. So right now is the best time for Brighton to play Aston Villa. And yes, I understand they're playing Villa at home, but still, that doesn't matter, I think, as of right now, because Villa have been struggling for the most part. Who do you reckon wins the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Premier League, and of course the Champions League? So League Cup, I do think, again, that's going to be Manchester City. I think Manchester City do beat Arsenal in that League Cup, which again I think is also going to change the momentum for the Premier League. Premier League, I want to say it's still Arsenal as of right now, even though, like I said, they have the 6 points between them and City, but they have to play each other. And after that match, who knows what can happen. So I'm going to assume Arsenal win that. So City win the League Cup, Arsenal win the Premier League. Then if we're looking at FA Cup, I'm going to pick my boys Chelsea. I do think they can still go on and lift a trophy at the season. Very, very unlucky if they don't, but at the same time, it's always difficult to lift the trophy. Champions League, I'm still picking Bayern Munich as my team as well. I do think, again, Champions League can go in any direction, depending on how everything shakes up after the first knockout phases. And then again, the table is not even fully set yet. So once that's fully set, I do think, again, that makes it very difficult for teams to actually win. Wolves 2-1. Wolves are awful, bro. Forest need this. They're going to get results. I don't know if I mean, yes, Wolves are not that good, but if you're looking at the last handful of matches, Nottingham Forest haven't been that good. I would say they've been very fortunate to get some of the wins that they've gotten as of lately. I think Morgan Gibbs-White had a PK that actually got them 3 points for their last win. Yes, Wolves have struggled, but Wolves have looked pretty decent as well at times. So I do think that's a game that they can actually go out and win that match. And Nottingham Forest, I'm not expecting much from them. So again, it will be quite interesting to see what happens there. I think Arsenal win it all, to be honest. Maybe not the FA Cup, but I'm an Arsenal fan, so that tells you. Yeah, I mean, Arsenal could... I mean, they could win a quadruple. Not that I don't think it's going to happen, but there's a high probability. I can't remember exactly what the probability was, but it's higher than what it should be as a Chelsea fan. I'm not saying for Arsenal fans, I'm sure they're happy to see how high it is, but I got to assume they're going to do quite well. Bayern will the Champions League, yeah, and I understand that Arsenal did obviously beat Bayern Munich in the Champions League, but that was a one game, and I do think that was probably good for Bayern Munich to lose that match against Arsenal earlier in this time frame, because now they know what they can do differently when they play against him. I think Vincent Kompany actually is a really good manager, and yes, I understand it's the Bundesliga, so maybe it's a little bit different, but he's done quite well for Bayern, and I do think, again, it'll be quite interesting. Sunderland, what was that? Sunderland don't beat Liverpool. I don't know. Sunderland, I think, have the possibility of beating Liverpool, because Liverpool right now, I think, are in a bit of turmoil right now. I think the wheels are coming off at Liverpool, and because of that, that could be a massive issue where I think Sunderland can just smash and grab, score one goal, maybe two. And like I said, I think they can hold a clean sheet against Liverpool. They haven't been that good clinically in front of goal. Even the match against City, Ekitike had so many opportunities and just couldn't find the back of the net. Mohamed Salah hasn't been that great. And like I said, I don't think Cody Gakpo has been really good in front of the goal. And therefore, yes, I know Florian Wirtz is a good player, but I do think Sunderland's defense is just that good that they could actually lock up Liverpool and win that game. Like I said, I think they win probably 1-0, but I do think Liverpool are going to try to press up and try to win that match. And it's going to be similar to that City game where all of a sudden Sunderland hit them on the counterattack. This fellow should stick to NFL. I don't even know what the NFL is, so I'm not sure how he can stick to that. And I believe the season's over with anyways. Spurs are a legit relegation battle. Yes, they are. Spurs, I do think, are in a major relegation battle because of Romero's red card and all their injuries. Yes, I understand they have some players possibly coming back shortly, but they're definitely going to be in relegation battle because right now, 29 points. I do think 29 points and then West Ham at 23. The fact that it's only 6 points between them and relegation is, again, a head scratcher because they shouldn't be that close and yet they are. And because of that, like I said, it's quite remarkable to say the least. And I do think Thomas Frank is kind of over his head at Tottenham, which I didn't think was going to be possible because I thought for sure going from Brentford to Tottenham, that was going to be an area where he was definitely going to thrive. You were going to see his tactics and just play out so much better, having better players. And because of that, I thought for sure that maybe this might be the year that Tottenham start playing a lot better, but somehow he's made them actually worse than the Premier League. Now, granted, Champions League, they've been playing pretty good, but we'll see how it goes. Can you move? Yeah, sorry, my bad. Spurs don't make sense. They were nearly relegated last year too. Something ain't right there. I will say last year was a bit of an anomaly because we had Leicester, Southampton, and I'm blanking on the third team that got relegated last year. All three teams were just poor last year. Ipswich, I think, was the other team, if I'm not mistaken, because Liam Delap was playing there. Those three teams were so poor that any team really just didn't have to worry about relegation. And you have to look at it too that once they knew Tottenham that they couldn't get relegated, they just scrapped the Premier League and obviously focused on Europa, and they won it. So it did make sense because I think the last 4 or 5 games they lost a few of those where they could have probably won those games and probably had more points at the end of the season, but we'll see. Spurs are better in form than Newcastle for sure. I don't know about that. I think Spurs and Newcastle are right now toe-to-toe and both playing pretty poorly. And because of that, I do think anyone can win that game. Someone will definitely dunking on United. I do think, I want to see Manchester United win 5 matches in a row just because I want to see the man get his haircut. Otherwise, if it doesn't happen this match, I don't know if it'll happen again. Winning 5 games in a row is kind of difficult for any club. It doesn't happen that often that teams think about, oh, we're going to go and win 5 matches because you got to assume you're going to have a hard opponent. You're going to pick up a draw here or there or just be unlucky, pick up a red card, or just things don't go your way that match. Maybe you give a penalty. Any of those things can happen all the time. So the fact that they're this close, I don't know if they'll get closer for the rest of the season. And obviously next season anything can change because then they'll be in the they'll be in the Champions League, but they'll also have the FA Cup, League Cup again, so they can start rotating some of those games. This year was just unfortunate that they lost so quickly in the League Cup and FA Cup. Do Thomas Frank and Arne Slot get sacked? I believe Arne Slot is getting sacked at the end of the season, despite whatever happens. Liverpool could go on and win the Champions League with Arne Slot. I still think they're going to sack him or they're going to part ways. I don't think it's been working out as of lately, which is kind of remarkable to say because if he were to win the Champions League, you would assume that people at Liverpool would be like, you know what, this guy won a league, he won the Champions League, he can probably win more things, but I gotta assume right now there's just so much going on with inside the organization that Xabi Alonso is available. I'm sure they've talked to him. They're probably going to bring him in, so I wouldn't be surprised with that. Barca winning 5 matches in a row every month or so. Yeah, they're in La Liga. Real Madrid. I'm talking about if you're looking at the Premier League, there's not many teams that go and win 5 matches in a row. That doesn't happen that often. I want to say they had a stat up. I think Arsenal have been the last team that have done it, and that was about 30 days ago, which I understand that's recently. But besides that, I think the last team was like 150 days ago. I could be misquoting those numbers by a little bit, but it doesn't happen as often. Because, if you look at the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich wins 5 games over and over all the time, too. So it's not that unsurprising for the most part. But otherwise, I think that can easily happen for them this weekend. Aston Villa did it, no. Did Aston Villa do it this year? I thought they had a draw in between there. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think draws happen a lot more often than you don't think. Everton going to be in the top four. If Everton make the top four, David Moyes deserves some credit for that because he's been such a great manager. The fact that he can take this Everton team that struggled so much just a few seasons ago, that were close to relegation as well, and that he might have them back in Champions League. He obviously did it way back when they had Tim Cahill, and I'm just trying to think of all the other players that they had at that club. This guy, I don't think gets enough credit for how good of a manager he is. And I understand he had the stint at United, things didn't go well for him, but still, every time he sets up every time he sets up Everton, they are just a fortress. And yes, I still understand they lose matches. They're going to lose matches. But the quality of players that he has, he almost turns them into a prime Barcelona team. Again, I don't know how he does it, what he tells them, what he gives them before a match, but somehow teams have a hard time against Everton. O'Brien has been playing really well. I would say Michael Keane's done quite well. Obviously, the rest of the team, the only problem for Everton is their striker situation. Beto, I don't think is the proper striker, and even other players that they've had at the club have struggled. So again, it's one of those things that, yes, if they got a proper striker, they could do a lot better, but you never know what's going to happen there. Oh, thank you for joining the club, by the way. That means a lot, man. Prime Barca, I'm telling you, watch Everton play sometimes. You look at their squad and you would laugh at how these players somehow can step up and just win these games. They're just a ridiculous club that you wouldn't expect them to win all these games, yet they somehow do it. Strikers, FBs, but Moyes working on it. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if they picked up a striker during the January transfer window because they should have. Not that Beto is a bad striker, but again, it's a guy they shouldn't be heavily relying on for the most part. Show me Arsenal. Sorry. Arsenal winning 3-1, and we're talking about Everton right now. Sunderland over Liverpool, though, come on. Again, I do think Sunderland is a better team right now than current Liverpool. I understand that Sunderland don't have the firepower like Liverpool, but what we just saw in the match against City, I do think, again, that's showing you the massive cracks at Liverpool, at Anfield, and how this team is slowly kind of breaking apart. I do think Virgil van Dijk is kind of past it for the most part. I do think, again, Konate has pretty much checked out this season, and I'm not sure where he's even going next season because I don't expect Liverpool to renew them. They have Frimpong, who's out injured. They don't even have a right back, actually, because Szoboszlai is playing there. Left back, Kirkes is playing decently, but not that great. Midfield-wise, McAllister has been pretty average. Overall, just the entire team has not been playing good at Liverpool this season. And I don't know if it's because of Arne Slot or just the players themselves that they currently have had. They just have taken their time and they are pretty much at the end of their career. Mohamed Salah being another player like that. So we'll see what happens. To be fair, what was that one? To be fair, Sunderland are unbeaten at home and Arsenal winning the league. Come on, you Gunners. Yeah, that's the other thing too. The Sunderland is definitely a very hard team to beat at home. There's, quite a few teams for the most part, I would say that are very difficult to beat this season at home, and Sunderland is one of them. Obviously, Arsenal is the other team that's very difficult, but really, there's just a few teams. Whenever you go there and play them, it's difficult. They even took points off Arsenal earlier this season, Sunderland. It was a 2-2 game, so the fact that, again, Sunderland could take points off Arsenal, I think they can easily take points off Liverpool because Liverpool are not even near as good as Arsenal are this season. Do you think City's third goal should have stood? No, I don't think that third goal should have stood. I did make a video about it. I'm not sure if you actually saw it. But the reason why it doesn't stand is because if you're looking at a dog zone, you have to give that red card. And the reason why is because it's a bit unfair for the team that now has to play Liverpool, which now is Sunderland, because think about from Sunderland's perspective. They just watched Szoboszlai commit a red card, and if he weren't to get sent off, that could sway that entire match because now Liverpool have to figure out what they're going to do with their right back position or what they're going to do in their midfield. So now that what Sunderland can do, they can set better about that because if they didn't pull that red card, it really, again, does hinder Sunderland a lot more than what people are realizing. And because of that, Sunderland right now are in a race to finish in Europa or even possibly Champions League. And like I said, you have to give that red card. And yes, I understand you should maybe let the goal go through, but once there's a red card committed, you kind of have to give that red card. You can't just let it pass on because if you let that pass pass on, it opens the floodgates for anything else. And because it's Manchester City, I feel like that also is warranted to give the red card, because if you were to let that go, then you're going to talk about the end of the season, how possibly that goal could affect the rest of the season. And like I said, you just have to call that, and therefore you made the right call. Possibly, I know everyone's going to hate that call, but it's the right call. Remember me, I called you out for saying Sunderland and Arsenal were going to draw. You did, Cole, but I think you also called me out on the Liverpool and Manchester City game. So I think that kind of buffers out that I was wrong and right on both of those. So hopefully you can forgive me on the Arsenal one. I have Arsenal winning this time, though, 3-1 over Brentford, and I think that's a calm, cool win for them. I don't think they're going to struggle against Brentford this weekend. But again, Brentford can hit you on the counterattack, but overall I think Arsenal's defense is just way too good for the most part. I need West Ham to win. Can't have their flow cutting this hair. I mean, I think that's going to be in the mind of all the Manchester United players. Even though they're probably not going to say it, even though Michael Carrick hasn't really talked about it, they all know about this. It's been going on for at least a season and a half. So the fact that they all know what this is going to mean if they win that match, I feel like that's going to give them a little more drive. And I feel like the haircut should happen right in the middle of the pitch at Stamford, not Stamford, Old Trafford. I think that should just be exactly where he gets the haircut done. Give maybe Sir Alex Ferguson to come out and just buzz it. I think that would be just comical to see that. It wasn't red. It didn't deny a goal scoring opportunity because it was a goal. But it did, because Erling Haaland should have scored the goal. You got to look at who's going to score that goal. And because he follows Erling Haaland, Haaland then follows Szoboszlai, because Szoboszlai would have cleared that off the line. He's right there to kick it, but obviously Erling Haaland takes and pulls him and calls that. So if you're going to call the foul on Erling Haaland, you have to call the foul before that, which again is a red card. And clearly it does mean something, because Erling Haaland probably gets some bonuses and stuff like that. So he's trying to score that goal. Obviously Shirky would have scored the goal because it did go in, but there's still a foul, so you have to give that foul. And like I said, if you call the foul on Szoboszlai, it's a red card, so you have to give it to him. How can it be a red when the ref played advantage? So you didn't deny goal scoring opportunity because the foul on Szoboszlai, there is no advantage once Haaland fouls him. If say Haaland didn't foul Szoboszlai and the ball rolled in, yes, it would have been fine. They then could have given it, but the fact that Haaland fouled him and stopped him from blocking it, and then Szoboszlai even ran up to the ref. If you go back and watch the highlights, he literally went up to the ref and started complaining about how it was an issue for the most part. So that's what we're going to say about that. What beats Arsenal, City, and Spurs but barely beat West Ham? What are these predictions? These predictions are always spot on. That's what these predictions are. We're never wrong here, only once. That was Arsenal last week. That makes sense at all. I mean, again, it's one of those really weird, strange calls in the City game. It doesn't happen that often. Really, I'm not sure if I've ever seen it happen before that match, and I've been watching for 20 plus years. And it's, again, one of those things, too. I think the ref let it go as well because he knew VAR was going to look at it. Because had VAR not existed and that goal happened, it would have stood then. I don't think he would have called anything. I think he would have just let it play out. But because VAR exists now, VAR has to go back. It's a red card. You have to give that red card for the most part. Manchester United should keep Michael Carrick for the next season if they're qualifying for Champions League. I do agree. I think Michael Carrick has done quite a phenomenal job at United this season. The fact that, again, they've already won 4 matches with him there, and they're not easy matches. They've beaten Manchester City, they've beaten Arsenal, they've beaten Fulham. They're, again, beating teams that they should be beating, but they're actually beating them in style too. It's not like City were the better team. Manchester United were definitely the better team against that City match. And like I said, they were arguably the better team against Arsenal. They took it to Arsenal as well. And because of that, like I said, it's one of those that I expect him to probably be there for the rest of the season, and possibly something could happen about this. But it'll be interesting to see what happens to Carrick. The Arsenal match is right here. What happens to Carrick at the end of the season? Because I got to assume with what he's done, there's got to be some top clubs that are going to be looking at him, because clearly he knows what he's kind of doing if he can beat those teams with just stepping into United, which was just absolutely terrible prior to that. Change United to 3-1. You think West Ham is going to beat United 3-1? I don't know about that. I do think Jared Bowen does score, possibly getting a brace for the most part, but we'll see what happens. But otherwise, again, it'll be quite interesting to say the least, because I do think, again, United have the possibility to win all 5 matches, just because, like I said, I think they have the firepower. They're obviously trying to race for top 4 for the most part. And then we'll see what happens from there, but I'm not too sure. We're going to just block that guy real quick. Yep. All right. That guy got blocked. No United win. Tottenham losing at home. Yeah. Have you watched Tottenham play? Osman? Tottenham have been absolutely terrible this season. They're going to lose multiple games yet this season at home. I think they've only won one game at home this season, if I'm not mistaken, in the Premier League. Champions League is a whole different story. But Tottenham at home during the Premier League is just an absolutely ridiculously bad. Are you blocking Arsenal's game? Oh, no, I'm not. I'm just, the fact where it's sitting, if I maybe move like this way, but I'm so like sitting close to my phone that if I move, then I'm out of the picture. And so therefore it's kind of one of those things. Maybe that's better. I don't know if that helps out for the most part. If it does, great. If it doesn't, I don't know. We'll see. Liverpool got robbed. No, Liverpool did not get robbed for the most part. But I do think, again, Arsenal, again, are going to keep flying high for the most part. I do think, again, it goes up until they have to play City. That's going to be where it definitely changes for Arsenal. That it could be a massive difference for them. But I do think, again, Arsenal have been playing so well this season. They have the depth. This is probably the season that they're going to go and win at least the Premier League. They could clearly go on and win the League Cup. They're in the final, obviously, but they could win the FA Cup. Champions League is still not that far out of reach for them either, so we'll see what happens with that. But no, I was just looking for them. No worries. Man U wins 3-1. Yeah, I mean, Man U might win 3-1. I do think, again, I think it's going to be a closer match when people are realizing, because West Ham have been playing better. You have to give them some credit for the most part, because if I'm looking at the table, West Ham 1 lost, 1 lost. So again, and that loss, I can't remember who it just was recently, but West Ham have been playing better, and obviously I think Nuno has gotten them playing a lot better too. They're trying to fight their way out of the relegation battle. I do think Nottingham Forest, Leeds, and Tottenham are clearly right now in that relegation battle, so we'll see what happens. What's up, Wonder Boy? Hello, how's it going there? Man U need to win for the haircut. Yes, I do think they have to win for the haircut, and like I said earlier, that I do think Sir Alex Ferguson should be the guy. I guess Michael Carrick would make sense though too, to just buzz his head right at Old Trafford, right in the middle of the pitch. It should be right after. Literally, if they win that match, just even though I know it's at Old Trafford, just literally right in the middle of the pitch at West Ham, just cut his hair right there. Brighton 2-0, really? Yeah, I do think, again, Aston Villa have been struggling for the most part, so this is one of those matches that I think could go in either direction, and we'll see what happens. I do think, again, Villa have been struggling as of lately. I'm looking at what they've been doing lately and looking at the table. They have a draw, loss, win, loss, draw. So they have 5 points out of 5 matches. They're not playing that good as of right now. And I think Oli Watkins is still out hurt, if I'm not mistaken. Abram is not, or Tammy Abram is not the best striker. I don't think he's that good. I mean, he's decent, but I don't think he's better than Oli Watkins for the most part. Everton, yes, I do think, again, Everton win this match. And Everton, I do think, could absolutely go above Liverpool after this week, and for the most part it would be kind of ridiculous to say the least, because if they win this match and obviously Liverpool lose, they do go ahead of them, and Everton go all the way up to 6th position. I do think, yeah, they can't go any higher than 6, but yeah, Everton can definitely push it for the most part. What's going on with Crystal Palace? They were performing so good last year. I mean, yeah, they were, but this year they've lost multiple players. They lost their best player in SA. He went to Arsenal, so that's a big one. Mark Gahey, he went to Manchester City. And then Oliver Glasner, as already just mentioned, he's pretty much done after this season. So pretty much once it all happened, it's gone downhill for them. I'm going to grab a drink of water real quick. And so because of that, I do think, again, there's just no real fight in Crystal Palace, though they just won their last match. So obviously they're sitting at 32 points. I don't think they have to worry about relegation. They could still be in that battle at the end of the season, but I do think 32 points, which is comical enough, might be enough to keep them out of relegation, even if they lost every single match for the rest of the season. But who knows? Palace 2-2 is a crazy place. Palace are playing well again. I wouldn't say they're playing too well. They have a win, draw, loss, and a draw. I mean, they're not playing great. They're not playing bad. They're playing average as of right now. But I do think, again, that they can get points at this match this week for the most part. Man, I need another drink. Sorry. I believe I've been talking for like an hour and a half now. So it's been quite some time. So my throat just definitely needs a little bit of water. Change at Villa 1-1 because they're at home. No, we're not changing. We don't change our predictions. Once the predictions have been made, we do not change them. Even last week, I had Arsenal losing to Sunderland. I will admit that was wrong, but I wasn't changing it. Once I go through and I kind of decide what I'm going to do, I save it and I post it. I'm not going to change it at all. Liverpool not losing, I missed it. Let me ask you this. Those 2 goals you gave, Brian, who do you think will be the goal scorers? Pascal Gross. I do think Gross has definitely made Brighton a better team. Granted, he was a great player when he was there before he left, but I think, again, he's a guy that can just find the back of the net at any given point for the most part. And they have other guys that can score goals, but I'm assuming he's going to be the guy that picks up a brace. So we'll see what happens with that. Mintonette, yeah, he could also do that as well. Hugo Ekitike plays for Liverpool and Mohamed Salah. I'm not sure if I missed something with Salah, but those guys, I mean, have been struggling. They should have scored. Ekitike, I still don't understand how he didn't score against City. He had, 2-3 sitters right in front of the goal and didn't even put him on target, which is remarkable because, again, not to bash him or anything because he's had a great season, but that was the time and place for him to step up, and he just did not do it, which again is quite shocking because he's a guy that Liverpool have kind of utilized and put the ball in front of him, and he's been finding the back of the net. They haven't been able to rely on Mohamed Salah this season as much, and I do think Ekitike has stepped up. I think Florian Wirtz is getting better through each and every week, but again, it's been taking a long time for the most part. Ekitike didn't score because Pep's wire transfer came through. Oh, that's what happened. Oh, maybe. Okay, we'll see about that. Thoughts on Liverpool's goal was Szoboszlai's free kick. Yeah, Szoboszlai's free kick was just, it was a chef's kiss. That, I mean, was ridiculous. The way he struck that ball, and I did see Ben Foster did a video on that of talking about the free kick. And actually, he had a good point because Donnarumma just said, do 2 guys. Had he done 3 guys in the wall, Szoboszlai doesn't score that. Like, it's so close to the wall. If there was another guy, it would have been blocked. Now, granted, I'm sure Szoboszlai probably would have hit it differently, but again, probably wouldn't have hit it as sweetly as he was able to that way. But yeah, take nothing away from Szoboszlai. I think he's one of the best free kick takers right now in the Premier League. Again, he can hit you from very far, very close, upper 90, wherever he wants to put the ball, he can definitely do it. So it's kind of interesting, to say the least, that Szoboszlai kind of reminds me of Stevie G. Not that they're exactly the same players, but the abilities that they both have are very similar for the most part. And I'm kind of curious to see what happens to Szoboszlai because he's such a young guy yet that he can continue to get better and better. And I do think he steps into that captain role at Liverpool once Virgil van Dijk sooner or later steps away from Liverpool. I'm not sure when exactly it's going to happen, but Szoboszlai can definitely be the captain. He's the captain ready for Hungary, so I wouldn't be surprised at some point if he does wear that badge for them because he can definitely be the main leader at Liverpool. And I do think if he takes that role on, he will up any players around him for the most part. He's going to have the mentality and the tenacity to tell these players that are around him, like, we need to step up our game. This is Liverpool. We're playing at Anfield. I think Virgil van Dijk has kind of lost that little bit of mentality for the most part. Who do you think will win the league? I do think Arsenal do win the league this season. Again, I'm a Chelsea fan, but I do think I'm not super deluded or crazy that I can see that Arsenal are the teams that right now that are currently favorites to win it. They have the 6 points, they have the depth, they have the goal scorers, they have the defense, they have the goalkeeper. When you're looking at Arsenal through and through, the entire team is just set up so well, and Arteta has been building the process. I think is going to finally pay out for them this season, which has taken a long time, but sometimes if you're that patient, it does pay off. I think it's very rare that clubs even do that nowadays. The fact that Arsenal actually held on to Arteta despite the fact of how things went for him. Yes, I understand he won the FA Cup his first season there, which was part of Emery's team as well. I'm not going to discredit Emery for what he did during that season, but the fact that they kind of went through, didn't win anything, haven't won anything yet, and yet this could be the season that they go on and just win 4 trophies is kind of remarkable. Now, they obviously still have a massive uphill battle to win all 4 of those, but it could still easily happen this season, so I'm kind of curious to see how it plays out for them because, like I said, it can go in any direction for the Premier League yet. City obviously can still go on their absolute terror and possibly win every single match and therefore put a lot of pressure on Arsenal. But I do think, again, this is Arsenal's season. Do you think Man U is going to get top 4? Yes, I do believe Manchester United do finish in the top 4. Kind of crazy is that I did predict that at the beginning of the season, but I didn't predict Michael Carrick being there, being the reason why they got the top 4. The players that they have at Manchester United are really good players. I do think the core ability at United is a very good team. They brought in obviously some big players as well, and Bomo and Cunha are 2 massive upgrades. They got rid of Garnacho, which again, he's at Chelsea now, which I still kind of shake my head at Garnacho being at Chelsea. I don't think he's that good of a player. He's good at going forward, cannot defend to save his life. But that being said, then you obviously have the best midfielder in the Premier League. That is Bruno Fernandes. I don't care what anyone says. You look at Bruno Fernandes, that man is the best midfielder. If he was playing at City, if he was playing at Arsenal, the amount of assists and the amount of trophies and accolades this man would have had is remarkable. Bruno Fernandes, again, is head and shoulders above all the other midfielders in the league. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't like him as a player because he whines too much, but his ability is still amazing. And because of that, like I said, he can carry, and he has carried United for multiple seasons and multiple matches. So therefore, again, I do think, again, United have the firepower to make it in the top 4 this season. So we'll see what happens. It's so crazy how different people play with different coaches. Oh, yeah, well, think about Collins. If you're thinking about different players, different tactics, different formations, because think about how Ruben was trying to playing 3 in the back, which again kind of works, kind of doesn't for the most part, but then it really just jammed up the midfield. You have to give certain players multiple areas of space to play into. Dorgu should have been playing on that left wing. He wasn't utilizing him. Michael Carrick comes in and he says, yeah, Dorgu, play on the left wing and do what you need to do, and just played so much better because he had so much more space and so much more freedom. When you kind of restrict players into a certain spot, it's very difficult for those players then to play well. Now, granted, great players will still play well like Bruno, but other players will be definitely hampered in how they can play, and that's why they get so rigid because they don't know exactly what to do. It's almost like Grealish too at City. He was such a great player, and I mean, time has now kind of passed him, but Pep Guardiola really told him, don't go forward, don't try to take a player on, just do some back passes, some side passes, and you just slowly saw that chip away at the player and how what he used to be able to do for the most part. But yeah, anyways, West Ham genuinely terrify me. They're going to miss apparently 3 key stars, and we should win. Who's all missing from West Ham? I didn't realize I had 3 key players missing. Well, I guess their defender who got a straight red card in the Chelsea match. I know he's out, but I know who else was out for that match. You think Man U fan will cut his hair? Yes, he's got to cut his hair. I mean, I feel like after everything that's been said and done, going a season and a half not to cut your hair after they win 5. The only thing I'm curious what his plans are after they win 5 matches, because clearly he has to have some type of game plan after this happens, whether he's going to do some other type of like growing his mustache or something else. I don't know. We'll see what happens for the most part. Do you think Erling Haaland has already reached his peak form? He's starting to struggle. No, I think the problem with Erling Haaland right now at City is that they are still in the transitional period with the players that they have, because obviously they brought quite a few players in and they've had some injuries, especially with that back line. But one of the big issues is that Kevin De Bruyne is not there this year. Kevin De Bruyne, the way he could just serve a ball on a platter for Erling Haaland the last handful of seasons, he doesn't have it this season. And therefore, again, no one's playing that through ball to Haaland. He can't use his pace, which we saw in the Liverpool match. The fact that Szoboszlai had, I think, like 2 or 3 steps on Erling Haaland and Haaland still outran him just shows you that man has so much pace. Just no one's playing that ball for him. I think part of that problem is that Pep doesn't want them to play into the open space because he wants to hold on to possession, doesn't want to lose as much. The only guy he really trusted was Kevin De Bruyne, because Kevin De Bruyne could make that pass every single time to Haaland. It was a perfectly weighted pass, and also the way he would like curve the ball. The only other guy I've really ever seen do it that quite well is Trent Alexander-Arnold. He used to do it for Mohamed Salah all the time on that right wing, and therefore, again, they don't have that right now. But anyways, I think Tottenham could get relegated this season. Your take? Yes, I do think Tottenham can easily get relegated yet this season, and I don't care that they're a big 6 team, because it does not matter. They are just playing absolutely terrible this season, and because of that, I do think, again, is the season that they could go down, which I don't know what that really means for Tottenham then, because they're such a massive team. It would remind me of Leeds when they went down back in 2001, 2002. I think it was right around that time. Leeds spent so much money and then went down. Tottenham have so much money. Obviously, the stadium. I don't think they would have an issue in the championship. I do think they would bounce right back, but it would be a wake-up call for them and what they would have to change differently, though. I think we could generally lose against West Ham. It would be a Manchester United thing to do. It could happen, but again, I do think, again, it's going to be one of those matches that I think United are just going to play of their minds. They've been doing so well. They're flying high, 4 wins out of 4, and the last match before that was a draw, so they really have just been playing the best. Right now, if you're looking at the current state of the Premier League, Manchester United are playing the best of anyone. They're the team that only have 4 wins in the last 5 matches, so therefore, again, I do think they're going to make it 5-0-5, which is going to be kind of strange to say the least, because I didn't think that was going to happen at any point this season after they lost Ruben for the most part. Crystal or Burnley? I'm going to go with Crystal Palace. So what did I pick? Where are they on my list? I can't even see them right now. Where are they on the list? Did I block them? Anyways, Crystal Palace. Oh, yeah, I have a 2-2 draw. Yeah, I think that's going to be a draw. I mean, it can go either direction, but I do think Crystal Palace is probably the better team. I think Parker has done decently well at Burnley, but I do think, again, he seems to be more of a championship type manager. He's been promoted, I think this is his third time. He got promoted with Fulham and one other team besides Burnley, and I kind of feel bad for him because every time he comes up, they just seem to absolutely get smashed every time. He goes right back down the championship. But I do think if Burnley hold on to him, which they should do, I don't think they should get rid of him. They did the same thing with Vincent Kompany when he got relegated. I think it's the smart move because I think Burnley understand this is still going to go back and forth for the most part. And I think Burnley's still a good team. They just don't have all the right pieces right now. They have a good defensive rate, but they still don't have the best defensive rate. Again, they let goals in too many times, especially at home, whereas last year in the championship, they were just a fortress at home, which is why they got promoted. They didn't really let up any goals last year in the championship. This year, obviously, it's a way different story where they're letting so many goals go in, and therefore, again, it makes a massive difference for the most part. And I'm going to turn this over here if I can do that. Can I do this? Because my head's starting to hurt a little bit. There we go. Come on, you don't think Liverpool can win against Sunderland? I don't think so. I think Sunderland are a good team. Sunderland have taken points off Arsenal, and Sunderland right now currently, where's Sunderland sitting right now in the Premier League table? I keep forgetting. Yeah, Sunderland's sitting at 9th. They're only 3 points off Liverpool, so I do think, again, that they can easily go on and win that match. But we'll see what definitely happens for the most part. Lamens, the goalkeeper for Manchester United is here. Awesome. Happy to see you here, man. Come on, you don't think... Oh, yeah, I do think that for the most part. But let's see what else. Come on, you don't think... Oh, you kept repeating it. Chelsea can't beat Leeds. It's either a draw or be smashed. I mean, I will say Chelsea do struggle against Leeds all the time. I'm not sure why Leeds is a thorn in Chelsea's side, but clearly we do struggle against them. But overall, I think Chelsea have been playing well. Liam Rowe Sr. has definitely gotten Chelsea playing a lot better. They've won their last, 4 matches as well. I mean, they're right up there with Manchester United. It's kind of remarkable. The fact that both clubs got rid of their manager and the fact that they both got rid of their managers have now won 8 games out of 8 is just kind of remarkable because I wouldn't expect Liam Rowe Sr. to do this well. He's only lost 2 matches so far, and yes, they've both been to Arsenal, but besides that, he's undefeated as a manager. And Chelsea, yes, have struggled a little bit in those matches, but overall, they've been actually pretty dominant to say the least. And I would say Manchester United obviously have been playing very well under Michael Carrick. So I do think, again, they're going to be a team that are going to play well next year if Liam Rowe Sr. can get some of the guys to back him up. The only problem right now at Chelsea is the management with the minutes because we've clearly seen that be a factor already. That's why Enzo Maresca left. There's been some times that he wanted to keep playing certain players, but because the fitness squad has said, no, we don't want you to keep playing that player, let's take him off, and therefore, again, let's not start him. It makes it very difficult. It's why we haven't seen Reece James playing the last handful of matches, and I think that's a massive issue for not just any manager, but any manager that has to deal with that. But Liam Rowe Sr. obviously has quite a few people that are going to be whispering in his ear on players he can and cannot play for the most part. You think Liverpool make Champions League? Man, I don't know if Liverpool make Champions League this year. I do think they drop into Europa League. I think this could be a year that just everything comes off for them. I don't think they lift any silverware this year. I don't think they qualify for Champions League, and I don't think they do quite well in the Champions League this season as well. Now, granted, maybe Slot does something that completely changes it, but I want to say most of the players right now I think have given up on Arne Slot. Just watching the last handful of matches for Arsenal, it just seems like the players just do not care as much as they did for when they played for Klopp, because completely different story when Jurgen Klopp was there compared to Arne Slot. It's remarkable how different things are at Anfield. And I do think, again, part of the problem is Virgil van Dijk is getting up there in age. He's not the captain he used to be. This is where I think Szoboszlai should step in and be handed the captain ban before the end of this season. I think Mohamed Salah has been struggling as well, and because of that, I do think there's been multiple reasons why Liverpool have been struggling, because it's hard to swap out those guys. And granted, the back line for Liverpool, they really, don't have anyone they can swap. They picked up a few guys. Those guys picked up injuries, and therefore they're kind of stuck with Virgil van Dijk and Konate. They can't use Joe Gomez. He's been hurt. The guy that starts the queue, I'm blanking on his name right now, he got injured. And I think they picked up one of the guys that tore his ACL. So the fact is, their back line is pretty thin. They can't go with anyone else. They're just running ragged in the back line. But anyways, Liverpool have such injuries. Why do you think Szoboszlai is playing right back? Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I think Liverpool have so many injuries. And the fact that Szoboszlai now will be out for that game for the Sunderland match, they have to use now an academy player in that right back, unless there's some other player I'm not thinking of that they can use because of all the injuries. I don't think Frimpong is going to be fully fit for that match. So therefore, again, it's going to be difficult for them, especially to go to Sunderland and try to win that match with a very shaky back line. I just don't see how it's going to happen for the most part. If Man U get Champions League with the money that they get, do you think they can be a problem? Yeah, I mean, I think United can be a problem even if they don't get Champions League, but I think they will because they're pretty much. Yeah, Conor Bradley, I know, is out as well. He's out for the season, but I do think Manchester United obviously still have the firepower. They can spend so much money just because of who they are, the club themselves, that they can clearly go out and buy players. I do think they still have that kind of pull towards them, that players are like, I know Manchester United, whereas say like a team like, I'm even say Chelsea, there's players that probably don't want to play for Chelsea because they didn't grow up watching Chelsea, whereas players grew up watching United play so well. So again, the fact that they get Champions League, yes, they can pull more players, but they really have a pretty good team overall, so it'll be kind of interesting to say the least. Nottingham Forest, what was that? Nottingham Forest or Liverpool? Yeah, I think Nottingham Forest is going to be the team that, again, possibly is going to be a relegation as well. I'm not sure why you're asking between those two because they're both not playing each other. I'm going to grab the door here because I know my cat's trying to get in here for the most part. Better in here. But otherwise, let's see what here. Let me get that set back up here. We're back in the screen. Sorry about that. Liverpool will lose, having kept to keep repeating. Yeah, Arsenal just got to win 11 games out of 13, and they've won the league. That can't be right. If they win 11 out of the 13, but what happens if City win 13 out of 13? City would go above them. Would they not? If I'm doing my math correctly. So Arsenal have to win. They have to win at least 11, but yes, City also have to drop points as well. Palace 2-2, no way. I mean, the problem here I'm thinking is that Crystal Palace, I don't think are very good defensively wise right now, but I also think Burnley is not that good defensively wise. And I think Anthony is a good player for them that they could still do quite well for the most part. But we'll see what happens, though, in that match. No, Arsenal will still win the league. I mean, if they lose, say they lose 2 of those games you're talking about, and one of those games happens to be against City, that also makes a big difference as well. So we'll see what happens. Nice. Tell me all the goals for Shirky. Do you think it could have stood? No, I don't think the goal for Shirky should have stood for the most part, just because, again, it was a red card, and you have to give the red card on the Dogzo because if you're looking at it from a standpoint, if you don't give that call, it's very questionable because Sunderland wonder why wasn't Szoboszlai sent off. The fact that now he's going to be missing that game makes a big difference, but he did prevent a goal happening, and therefore, again, you have to call the red card. And yes, you could say there was advantage, but Erling Haaland pulled on Szoboszlai and therefore, again, fouled him. Because he fouled him, it definitely led to them going back to VAR to check everything. So obviously that's why I think it's the red card. Play FPL. Yeah, I do play FPL, and I did quite well this past week, and I think I scored 63 points. I did captain Thiago though, which I feel like I should have captained someone else. There's been some massive weeks where I've done well, and there's been some weeks I've done absolutely terrible in FPL. But overall, I think I've done pretty decent. I think I'm sitting like at 4 million position-wise. I'm not doing that great, but at least decent. Liverpool have already played all the hard games. City and Arsenal home and away, so it'll be easy. I mean, they lost to other teams this season, so it's not like Liverpool are that good this season. They've lost some pretty easy matches that they should have won, so the fact that you're going to say they're going to win the rest of their matches, I don't think it's going to happen. 13 games to go, yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy how there's only 13 matches left to go this season. I don't know how that already happened. I feel like the season just kicked off, that we were having the beginning of the season watching Bournemouth versus Liverpool, where that was an absolute drama game. And yes, I understand Liverpool won that game because Liverpool came off the gates just flying high, but also they couldn't defend at the beginning of the season. So it really has been a strange season to say the least. But obviously, it's been a great season. But yeah, in 13 games, it's still a long ways away. A lot can happen in between there. And you still have the Champions League, you still have the FA Cup. So many other things can definitely happen for the most part. But yeah, Liverpool still have United at home. Yeah, and that's going to be a hard game as well. I think United can beat Liverpool at home. Do you see any big players leaving their clubs this year, Collins? I'm trying to think of players that could possibly leave this season. Cole Palmer could be one up in the air. I do think there's a possibility that if he's dealing with more of an injury, I could see Chelsea offloading him, but probably not going to happen for the most part. City could easily lose a few of their players. If Pep Guardiola is out at the end of the season, I do think, again, they're going to lose a few of their players. I do think Liverpool, Mohamed Salah, and Virgil van Dijk are pretty much going to be done as well. So we'll see what's going on with that. He's going to United. I'm not sure if Cole Palmer will go to Manchester United. It would be interesting. I just don't know how him and Bruno would fit together. That would just be kind of an interesting midfield, to say the least. If Arsenal go on 8 games win streak, title's finished. It could be, but we'll see what happens. Wolves win a game. Yeah, I think Wolves can still win a few games here and there. Bruno will leave. I don't know if Bruno will leave or not yet. We'll see what happens here. Oh, I've just realized my stream is really far behind on my other stream. Okay, it just showed me drinking water, which was like 10 minutes ago. That's kind of weird. But yeah, I do think, there's going to be some other players that are going to leave too. I'm just trying to think of Arsenal. I could see Arsenal losing Odegaard, which I think it's time for Odegaard to leave anyways. I do think there's just a few other players, and it really does depends with the World Cup too, because I think the World Cup obviously will highlight a lot of players. We've seen that happen before where players play very well in the World Cup, and therefore, again, teams go out to buy them. And because of that, they might start moving some pieces around. So it could be quite interesting to see how that goes out for the most part. Arsenal beat Brentford. Then for me, it will be completely, I missed that, what you said there, demoralizing City because we can beat Wolves, yeah, for the most part. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking for what's going to happen there. And I'm just trying to think some of the younger players that could definitely step up too. I think that's the issue when the World Cup comes around, because some of the younger players do play well, and therefore, again, clubs see that, and then they try offloading some of their other players. So it will be really interesting to see how that plays out. My other dream is Man City losing. We'll see if that happens or not. Villa to lose. Wow. Yes, I do think Villa will lose this upcoming weekend. I think they've just been playing very poorly as of lately, and because of that, I could just see them continuing to struggle for the most part. And therefore, like I said, I think Emery's done quite well as a manager at Villa, but right now there's just been so many things going on. I think they have a few injuries as well. Ollie Watkins being out, I think that's one of their bigger issues for the most part. And I do think, again, that they can continue to play well, but I just think that Brighton is just going to be a better team that week, this upcoming week. So we'll see what happens for the most part. Thank you for the follow, by the way, Mr. Villain. Thank you all for the follows and the gifts, by the way. I think I missed quite a few. I do apologize. It was kind of flying here pretty quickly. The problem with Chelsea is that they have many young, good players. Yeah, I mean, Chelsea, that is the problem, but that's part of what Chelsea want to do, that they want to have a lot of young players that they can build a squad really well, because if you're looking at the next handful of years with the players that they have, if, again, say they keep everyone that they have. They keep Esteval. They keep Cole Palmer. They keep Enzo Fernandez. They keep Garnacho, which, again, I don't think Garnacho is the right guy, but they keep all these other guys like Neto. You're looking at João Pedro. We even still have Nico Jackson on technically the payroll because he is on loan for the most part. Oh, there's a cat right there. You got to watch out there. The rest of the team, like Caicedo, all these guys at Chelsea are in such long contracts that the entire board is looking at, yes, we want to obviously win some stuff, and we did win trophies last year, but we're looking to build these players and eventually just add a few pieces here and there and continue to build depth, which you could argue, though, that they should have depth already, but it's kind of interesting because when you look at Chelsea, the depth isn't fully there, and it's kind of weird because you would think with spending $1 billion that they would have massive depth, but they just don't. And I think part of the issue with that is because they've sold some of their players already, and some of the players just don't want to play. And obviously, when you're buying and selling so many players, it's difficult to know how everyone's going to fit. And therefore, again, we've had multiple managers come in, and that makes a big difference. So we'll see what happens, though, for the rest of the season for Chelsea. But I do think Chelsea still have the possibility of winning something. I think the FA Cup isn't out of the realm for Chelsea this season, so we'll definitely see what happens for the most part. How do I decline that? There we go. Sunderland win against Liverpool. Yes. 2-0 against Liverpool. You joke, mate. I do not joke here. These are all facts. I'm a time traveler. I saw all these matches happen, and I saw Sunderland win 2-0. It was remarkable. You're gonna see and be like, wow, I can't believe that guy predicted this. But yes, it's gonna happen. But yeah, because Sunderland, I do think, again, are a good team for the most part. So thank you guys for all the follows as well. What time is it? I may hop off here because I've been doing this for an hour. Yeah, we may hop off in just a little bit, but I do enjoy you guys all being here. So thank you guys all for the follows and for the gifts for the most part. Brentford draw. You think Brentford's going to draw against Arsenal? That seems like that's not going to happen, even though I did pick Sunderland to beat them last game. I think obviously Brentford is a good team, but I think Arsenal right now are just flying so high. That's going to be interesting. Bournemouth to beat Everton. No, Everton are playing too good right now too. I think Everton are going to get more wins yet this season. I do think Everton still have the possibility to finish in the top 5, which again is quite remarkable. There's a possibility that we may see David Moyes in the Champions League once again with Everton, which again is just going to be an absolute shock if that does happen for the most part. So, all right. I'm going to head out though, guys. Thank you guys all for being here. If you guys enjoy this, make sure to follow. I will see you guys next time. And we're going to end it here too.